Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to the L3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Megalo, South Florida. And today's day is Monday, April 19th, 2021. And two horrific events in the 90s happened. One 28 years ago today. The Waco Massacre, I call it. And the Oklahoma City bombings in 1995. Very horrific indeed. And it's just one of those things, how accurate the information is and all that, this really gets my goat, even to this day. When people still want to praise them and go, oh yeah, give them the, rewards and Medal of Honors, whatever you want to call it. It just dawns on me when you have all that scenario sorry about that. The scenario about liberty for me and none for thee. That has been happening for all this time. First of all, I'd like to say here, do a little rant in reference to Dee Snider calling John Schaffer a piece of shit for Capitol riots. It's from the Toronto Sun. And I'm not here, it's not out of malice or anything like that towards Mrs. Snider by any means. But sometimes when you read the rant when I read his rant from the Twitter, I wasn't really impressed at all. Especially what he says here about John Schaffer being, saying he's an embarrassment to the middle community. Schaffer pleaded guilty, of course, charged of obstruction, criminal trespass and all that. He also entered into a cooperation agreement with government agents. Well, I remember the CNN talked about that, and how accurate is it? But what really gets the funniest thing about it, because when you got someone calling him a piece of crap, first he shames us with terrorist actions in D.C., then he becomes a rat to his own people for a life sentence, Dean Rage. The man's a F-up. Own your crap. If you do the crime, you do the time. What does, I got a question for Mr. Snider. How do you know if he's a terrorist? Terrorist actions. Do you, actually watch Citizen Journalist on this ordeal? Some of the cops letting these people in? There's plenty of information out there. But you're going to call him a piece of crap and embarrassed to the middle community. But it's okay for governments to do what they want. That's okay, right? That's the question I have for you, D. So, you're the one who needs to get a clue. And don't get me wrong, I'm not praising Schaffer, on his actions, but I do see the bigger picture. When you got the federal government entrenching on everyone's rights, encroaching on states' jurisdictions for a long period of time, it's called blowback. I'm convinced too. Hey, it is a socially engineered event. I know that from the very beginning. But you see all the crap they're doing, right? With the FBI and other agents beating the crap out of people, shooting them, but they get away with it. That's okay. Remember, the number one terrorists are tyrannical governments. They're the true terrorists. Just a little history lesson, Dee Snider. About 170 million people died from genocide by the hands of governments gone bad. Maybe a little 270 million from democide. Who do you trust more? Who's the piece of crap? Tyrannical governments or just John Schaffer? Something to think about. It's very disappointing. I'm not here to condemn him by any means, folks, but I'm very disappointed on this little rant. Now, he claims he's going to be under the witness protection program, according to CNN.com. Oh, really? How accurate is that information, D? Have you observed it thoroughly? That's the question I have for you, sir. And it was never an insurrection. Never an insurrection, according to the Comedy News Network. It says here, too, when one of Dee Snider's followers defended Guitarist Riot, at least he had the balls to stand up for he believes. Of course, Snider fired back. How do you feel about him being first to plead guilty and cooperating with the feds to lessen his sentence? Not what I call stand-up. Psych. But here's the thing. How accurate is that? Okay? And like in my shows in the past, that's his decision. If he takes responsibility for his actions, that's fine. But remember, New York Times, all these people, just verify, folks. They're giving you propaganda. Like I talk about my show about John Schaffer. He's claimed to be a founding member of Oath Keepers. Here's another thing, too, that you got to look out. You should think about. Thought crimes. Thought police. Have you been paying attention to what the Biden administration's doing? Are they pieces of shit? Or they're just honorable people? The ones he praise and kiss the floor they walk on? That's a question for you. Something to think about. Like I said, I'm not angry at him. I have no animosity. I'm just very disappointed. It's a letdown. So can it be critical? Like Corpse Grinder made that statement. You disagree with what he's done. What was he thinking? You know what? That's fair. He didn't come a piece of shit. Hey, remember the time with the whole PMRC meeting? Stand for what's right? Yeah. You gotta think about that too. Never trust the government. Absolutely. So I was like looking through here and seeing all this. But it's just a claim. You know, this is Toronto Sun, so you know how, they put another drama queen news site. Just pick up information, AP, all that. But if I don't just release it, okay, this is what they say, okay, we'll just take it out there. I don't know how accurate is this? That's the question. Like I said, especially, like I said, I find it unacceptable. Yeah, your free speech, brother. But at least I know one thing. I'm not the one taking a photo of myself exercising Sharia law light. You folks out there figure it out. Another person, Maxine Waters, decided to go to Minnesota, Minneapolis area, on his whole Derek Chauvin case and tell everyone, according from Unicorn Riot's own video, saying they're guilty. You gotta find them guilty. Who the hell is this globalist piece of crap think she is? Call about the gremlin, Aunt Esther Gremlin. I love Aunt Esther from San Francisco, by the way. But this woman here is a freedom-hating sap, a globalist crap bag. All you gotta do, folks, is read H.R. 111. She believes that the UN should come in and take your firearms if all hell breaks loose. And she co-sponsors that last year. That's exceptional? You want to respect her? Hell no. And she don't even live in her damn district, for the goodness sake. But you gotta go to Minnesota to tell people how to decide the case. Shut up! You two-legged bag of pus. Benedict Arnold is a lot more patriotic than you. You know Rosa Parks or Harriet Tubman. At least they stood for what was right. You don't. So who's your Lord and Savior? General Idi Amin Dada from Uganda? Yeah, that's what you're no more than a tyrannical scum queen. Have no right being over there. If you were to do this in my district, I'll be blasting the hell out of you, and none of your damn bodyguards can do a thing about it. You don't come around other people's turfs and shake your tail because I'm a congressman for 44 years. Big effing deal. You're nothing more than a contemptuous hack. Derision is your platform. The people in that area should call her ass out and start bulldozing her. Actually have her go confront her and make her go to her vehicle and get the hell out and make sure she leaves your city. That's insulting, degrading, and unacceptable. We've got to find out, when the decision's going to be. And folks out there, I know a lot of people in that area, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all that, they don't want to riot. But watch out for all those confounded hired guns. You got your rights. Article 1, Section 18 of your state constitution. You got natural rights. If you got to defend your property, your community, do it. Because remember, criminals do one thing. Only language they believe in is using violence. They use it on you, got to counter it with the same. Because it proves one thing, the police aren't obligated to protect an individual. Look what happened last year. So I would encourage everyone not to riot. This is part of the New World Order coup. Rogue elements that are in Black Lives Matter and Antifa, rogue elements, hire guns, they're out there. If it does occur, folks, your protests, your rallies, and so forth, all you citizen journalists out there, I encourage you to videotape everything. And the ones that are trying to stir up trouble, call them out and send it to everyone throughout your social media networks. Because a lot of you folks out there did a fantastic job exposing the truth. You gotta give all these tyrants a taste of their own medicine. Action conquers fear. Speaking of this, of fear and actions, I'm going to do a couple of articles. I'm going to try to browse through, which is now law, HB 1. We'll just start off here with the Epoch Times. It's all about Ron DeSantis. It says here, Florida Governor DeSantis signs anti-riot bill into law, creating tougher penalties for violent protesters. I don't like Jack Phillips, I love you, but don't use violent protesters. Call them violent criminals. That would be better. That participate in protests. Call them violent criminals. Call it like it is. But I'll continue on here. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that intends to crack down on violent protests and riots in the state. DeSantis, a Republican, signed a so-called anti-riot measure in Polk County on April 19, saying it's the strongest anti-riot pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country. Signing comes amid protests, riots, lootings, and arson incidents in several major cities around the United States in the wake of an officer-involved shooting death in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Meanwhile, a verdict is expected to be handed down by a jury in the murder trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin, who was seen kneeling on George Floyd before his death, which sparked months of riots and demonstrations. The law known as HB 1 increases criminal penalties for assault, defacing monuments, and vandalizing public property during riots. Local governments that interfere with law enforcement trying to contain violent demonstrations will be penalized. Meanwhile, a citizens' appeal process will be set up when counties and cities try to reduce their respective police force budgets. So they're probably not getting any grants. So I'll just continue on here. DeSantis said during a signing event that the left-wing cries of defund the police that echoed throughout Black Lives Matter demonstrations last year is an insane theory and is not going to be allowed ever to carry the day in the state of Florida. Democrats and the American Civil Liberties Union have said that the law is designed to intimidate Black Lives Matter and related protesters. Micah Kubik, Executive Director of ACLU of Florida, said in a statement the bill was purposely designed to embolden the desperate police treatment we've seen over and over again direct towards blacks and brown people who are exercising their constitutional right to protest. The law went into effect immediately after DeSantis signed the bill on April 19th, so it started today. All right. According to the text of the bill, other new measures, including changing definition of a riot, is in the state of Florida. A riot will be defined as a violent public disturbance involving three or more people acting with a common intent that causes damages to public property or injuries, or can cause imminent injury or damage. The law creates a new second-degree felony, aggravated riot, for any riot involving more than 25 people and resulting in grievous bodily harm or more than $5,000 in property damage. It will also apply if participants use or threaten to use as a deadly weapon or block roadways by force or by the threat of force. Florida State Senator Danny Burgess, a Republican who sponsored the measure, said, "The law defines the difference between a peaceful demonstration and a riot. Not only we do that to put the public on notice as to what constitutes a riot, but it also makes it clear to both protest and law enforcement where that line is, the law is drawn," Burgess said, according to Channel 8 News Channel 8. That's pretty interesting there. And I just actually just started trying to look into it more on this law. So I'm going to see what the Orlando Sentinel has to say about this. And, of course, DeSantis signs Anti-Riot bill into law, sparking outcry for Democrat civil rights groups. This is by Stephen Lemongello and Gary Roher, which is Orlando Sentinel. All right, and says here, Governor DeSantis signed anti-riot bill into law Monday, a measure that vastly increases law enforcement powers to crack down on civil unrest. The bill, pushed by Republican governor, has been criticized by Democrats and civil rights groups as unconstitutional, infringing on the First Amendment rights to peacefully protest. Okay, so as long as it honors Article 1, Sections 2, 4, and 5 on peaceful protest, that's fine. But if it doesn't, when it comes to violence, okay, or violating others, that's out the window. But I gotta say, let's go try to read the bill together here. It's like 61 pages long, so I'm not gonna, but I'm just gonna keep on going here. And as it reads here, the bill pushed by Republican governor has been criticized by Democrats and civil rights groups as unconstitutional. I already said that. If you look at the merits of this particular piece of legislation, it is the strongest anti-rioting pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country. The Senate said at a press conference in Winter Haven, surrounded by Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, uniformed deputies, and other law enforcement. There's just nothing even close. The Senate also hinted that Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who he said last year had murdered George Floyd, might be acquitted, and that the state was prepared. I don't know what's going to happen, DeSantis said, but I can tell you that case was bungled by the Attorney General there in Minnesota. They didn't handle it properly, and so there may be people disappointed. Speakers, including the governor, and said the law would protect law enforcement and private property against rioters, despite it acknowledged there was a little violent unrest in Florida during the last year's protest over George Floyd's death, which I tell everyone there were hired guns. Most of the people, I'm just saying this, most of the people that were here, like in Fort Lauderdale, they were good people. But always had the hired guns. They just come out later. Boom. I've seen it from myself. But opponents said it will make it easier for law enforcement to charge organizers and anyone involved in the protest, even if they had not engaged in any violence. The problem with this bill that the language is overbroad and vague, and that it captures anybody who is peacefully protesting a protest that turns violent through no fault of their own, said Kara Gross, the legislative director at ACLU of Florida. Those individuals who do not engage in any violent conduct under this bill can be arrested and charged by a third-degree felony and face up to 5 years in prison and loss of voting rights. The whole point of this is still instill fear in Floridians. So we gotta look at that. Florida Senate passes bill Anti-Riot, sends it, signed to law. Okay, never mind. The Florida Senate on Thursday approved. And that will be it, huh? Let me see. All right, let's check out here. Let's just go on here. It's just like more updates here. Yeah, Florida Senate on Thursday approved Anti-Riot bill championed by... Okay. There's some interesting stuff here because in some of these areas, like even Senator Shervin Jones, Democrat from West Park, who is black, said the new law undermines any Floridian's constitutional rights and that is disgusting, that the GOP would rather empower vigilantes and silence voices that listen to the majority of Floridians who oppose this dangerous bill. The governor's spectacle is a distraction that will only further disenfranchise black and brown communities. I don't know, I'll be very honest. There's a lot of folks who are business owners who are black and brown got slapped in the face by these hired guns. So you got to look at that angle as well. The law, which goes into effect immediately, grants legal civil immunity to people who drive through protesters blocking a road, which Democrats argue might have protected the white nationalist who ran over and killed counter-protester Heather Heyer during the Charlottesville tumult in 2017. It also makes blocking a highway a felony offense. I'm like, see, they use the same old rhetoric. I'll tell this. I'll tell this here, the people who wrote this. Let me tell you something. Blood should be on the hands of the city of Charlottesville because they had their police stood down. They breached their damn permit to Jason Kessler, excuse me. And I'm not crazy about Richard Spencer or David Duke, all right? Blood's on the hands of Charlottesville. Give me a break. Just think about it. You're driving home from work and all of a sudden you have people out there shutting down a highway, and we worked hard to make sure that didn't happen in Florida, DeSantis said. They started to do that. There needs to be swift penalties. The law also creates a broad category for misdemeanor arrest during protests, and anyone charged under that provision will be denied bail until their first court appearance. So, if it's misdemeanor is a legitimate question. DeSantis says he wants that to prevent people from rejoining ongoing protests. Okay, well, the whole thing is that can be a Article 1, Section 17 issue. Cruel and unusual punishments and bail, excessive bail. So that could be challenged, all right? But we'll get more clarification on that. The measure also protects Confederate monuments, along with other memorials, statues, and historic property, which I agree. We also saw around the country people toppling monuments of people like George Washington. DeSantis said this bill protects all monuments in Florida. You have no right to go in and take down monuments. We're not going to let the mob win the day with that. Echoing DeSantis, Republican State House Speaker Chris Sprowls and Attorney General Ashley Moody vilified other states and cities for their handling of the protests last year, some of which did turn violent. CFO Jimmy Petronis claimed that Portland, New York, and Seattle burnt to the ground last summer. At one point, Judd held up a photo of black families at the beach, and at Walt Disney World saying law enforcement will help guarantee an environment where you can come here and have fun. There are no African Americans on stage for this bill signing. So of course they're going to use a lot of racial overtones, right? And of course here, but despite saying he welcomed people moving to Florida, Judd warned, don't register to vote and vote the stupid way they did up north and get what they got. Hey, like Sheriff Judd or not, that's a great line. You leave your infections over there. You don't bring it down to Sunshine State. This is how we do it in New York City. So turn around and go back to your police state. I agree with him completely on that. So that's funny. A vast majority of citations and charges against protesters last year were ultimately dropped, dismissed, otherwise not filed, according to the analysts by the Guardian newspaper. In Orlando, about 80 of about 100 arrests on charges of disorderly conduct in the first week of Floyd's protests last year were ultimately dropped. Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Friday, a potential Democratic challenger to DeSantis' re-election in 2022, said that the law helps no one. It's simply to appease the governor's delusion of widespread lawlessness. Friday said, the message is clear. If you disagree with him, you will be silent. DeSantis did not take questions after he signed the bill. Well, and don't worry, I criticized Governor DeSantis a few times myself on my show, and I wrote letters to him on that too. So, you can't silence me. But here's the thing. I'm going to look at this law here a little bit. Now it's the law. It's like 61 pages long, so what I'm planning to do, I'm going to actually leave the rest of it on here. But it's interesting about the whole thing here. What's going on here? Where are you? Oh, there it is. And it's really curious, you know. So, of course, there'll be certain statutes they're going to be using, and requiring a minimal term of imprisonment. Okay, so I'm just like winging it right now. Restitution, participating, all that good stuff. So it's actually, you know, it's actually amending certain statutes, a good amount of statutes in here. All right, obstructing streets and so forth. So he did a lot of stuff in here, and if you read it down, it does there's some changes, alterations, like on section 1. Let me see here. State legislator. Section 1, subsections 4 through 6. Florida Statute 166.241. Okay, fiscal years, budgets, and he underlines here, appeal of municipal law enforcement agency budget. And 4A goes to the tentative budget. A municipality contains funding and reduction to operating budget of the municipal law enforcement agency, the state attorney for the judicial court in which the municipality is located, or a member of the governing body who objects to the funding reduction may file an appeal by petition to the Administration Commission within 30 days after the... Where are you? Sorry about that. Oh, yeah, where are you? 30 days after the tentative budget is posted to the official website of the municipality under subsection 3. So there's a lot of stuff in here. It's interesting. And even they did an exception on 768.28 on sovereign immunity tort liability, which means it's like they made it. They made it more enhanced. Like if they have the police stand down, and you could prove it, and it could be done, you can sue the city. So, technically the police aren't obligated to protect you, but if it's like in these conditions, like rioting and so forth, that can be used against them. So he did some conditions on there on changing that, in that Sovereign Immunity Tort Liability Act. So it's very interesting there. Of course, obstruction. Okay, we go over here, which is Florida Statute, Section 2. It's 316.2045, Section 2. Obstructions of public streets and highways and roads. There's some cross-outs and so forth. That says here, a person may not willfully obstruct the free, convenient, and normal use a public street, highway, or road. All right? By impeding, hindering, stifling, retarding, or restraining traffic or passage thereon. He crossed out by, and subsection, and of course 2, says right here, which is in its entirety. So, like I said, standing on or remaining in the street, highway, or road. 3, endangering the safety of movement or vehicle or pedestrians traveling thereon is a period, so that's been added. And this was 3 subsection B has to say. A person who violates paragraph subsection A shall be cited for pedestrian violation, punishable as provided in Chapter 318. All right, so we get C here. The subsection does not prohibit local governmental entity from issuing a special event permit as authorized by law. So that will be, so they added to that. All right, so, and they did cross out the whole unlawful stuff down here. So it's like multiple pages, a lot of stuff's been crossed out. So definitely I will add this to the memo. on here. So yeah, a lot of stuff had been taken out. And of course, subsection 2, it says here, notwithstanding, of course, our provisions of, notwithstanding subsection 1, any commercial vehicle used solely for the purpose of collecting solid waste or recyclable or recovered materials may stop or stand on any public street, highway, or road for the sole purpose of collecting solid waste or recyclable recovered. Okay, so you gotta always look at that angle too. So, materials. Okay, so a lot of stuff's here, and of course, subsection 3. Section 3, subsection 5 of section 68.28, which is, says right here, the waiver of sovereign immunity and tort actions recovery limits is underlined, has been amended here. Civil liability for damages caused during a riot. So like, other words, if they stand down, if they tell the police to stand down, you can sue the city, your municipality for that. Okay, so that's going to be interesting right there. And of course, he added subsection 5A. So there's a lot of changes around here. And of course, we get this here in subsection B. It's like here. This is brand new. It's all been underlined under the same tort law. It says here, subsection B, municipality has a duty to allow the municipal law enforcement agency to respond appropriately to protect persons and any property during a riot or an unlawful assembly based on the availability of the adequate equipment to its municipal law enforcement officers and relevant state and federal laws if the government body of municipality or person authorized by a governing body of the municipality breaches that duty, the municipality is civilly liable for any damages, including damages arising from public personal injury, wrongful death, or property damages proximately caused by the municipality's breach of duty. The sovereign immunity recovery limits in paragraph A do not apply to the action under this paragraph. So that's like new in there. So you can always look at that. And of course, assault, which is 784.11. It's been new here, except as provided in subsection 3, a person who assaults another person, as underlined, commits a misdemeanor of the second degree, punishable as provided in Florida statutes 775.082 or 083. And this one here, subsection 3, a person who assaults another person in the furtherance of a riot or an aggravated riot prohibited under statute 870.01 commits a misdemeanor of the first degree, punishable as provided in statute 775.082 and 083. So that's like new. And we go aggravated assault, subsection 2. It says here, a person who commits aggravated assault commits a felony of the third degree. Okay, so we'll just keep on going here. Subsection 3 of that, for the purpose of sentencing under Chapter 921, a violation of this section committed by a person acting in the furtherance of a riot or an aggravating riot prohibited under Statute 87.01 is the rank 1 level above the ranking under Statute 921.0022 for the offense committed. And right down here for subsection 3 right here, a person who commits a battery in furtherance of a riot or aggravated riot prohibited under the same thing, okay? It'll be third degree from 775.082 to 084, all right? So I'm just like browsing through this, so bear with me, folks. And even here on aggravated battery, 784.045, they did a little addition here. On subsection 2, a person who violates subsection 1 commits, all right, so they crossed out certain language, I'll just say it right now, it's complete, of a felony of the second degree punishable as provided in Florida Statute 775.082 to 084. And this one here is subsection 3, for the purposes of sentencing under 921, a violation of the section committed by a person acting in furtherance of a riot. So it's more like repeating here, all right? under these statutes, A7.01. So, yeah, this is a lot of stuff in here. And mob intimidation, that's when it comes down to it, which is 784.0495. And it looks like it's been like a couple of paragraphs here. It's been brand new. And it says here, it's unlawful for a person assembled with two or more other persons and acting with a common intent to use force or threaten to use imminent force to compel or induce or attempt to compel or induce another person to do or refrain from any act or to assume, abandon, or maintain a particular viewpoint against his or her will. And Section 2 says the person who violates subsection 1 commits a misdemeanor of the first degree. And that will be on the same statute, 775, 0.82 and 83. Okay, 0.83. So, we go down here. A person arrested for a violation of this section shall be held in custody until brought before the court for admittance to bail, according with Chapter 903. There's a lot of questions on that, so that could be a Article 1, Section 17 conflict. Okay, so that's what American Civil Liberties is questioning these things, because even innocent bystanders may get caught under this web, and they're probably getting that same treatment. It does happen a lot, don't get me wrong. So there's a lot more balance of police powers. You know, and it's very... Here's what they said here. On 784.07, assault or battery of law enforcement officers, firefighters, public transit employees, all that, other specified officers. And this one here came from subsection B. And it's just one of those things, folks. There's a lot of stuff in here. Notwithstanding, law enforcement, notwithstanding any other provision of the law, any other provision of the law prefers a conviction of battery upon law enforcement or other committed in inference of the riot, aggravated riot, prohibited under statute 807.01, shall be sentenced to a minimum term of imprisonment for 6 months. So, there's a subsection 4 says, for the purpose of sentencing under Chapter 921, a felony violation of the section committed by a person acting in the furtherance of a riot or an aggravated riot prohibited under Florida Statute 870.01 is ranked 1 level. And of course, 921.0022. So it talks about, historic property. This here is subsection 3 of that same statute. Hear the rain? Yeah, you hear the rain. Any person who, without the consent of the owner thereof, willfully and maliciously defaces, injuries, or otherwise damages by any means a memorial historic property as defined in Statute 806.135, subsection 1, and the value of the damage to the memorial historic property is greater than $200, commits a felony of the third degree, punishable as provided in Florida statutes 775.082 through 084. A court shall order any person convicted violating this section to pay restitution, which shall include the full cost of repair or replacement of such memorial or historic property. Wow, so you get them where it hurts, their pocketbooks. Of course, right here, Section 11, Section 806.135, Florida statute is created to read, destroying or demolishing memorial or historic property. 1 is using this section the term A historic property means any building, structure, site, or object that has been officially designated as a historic building, historic structure, historic site, or historic object through a federal, state, or local designation program. B. Memorial means a plaque, statue, marker, flag, banner, cenotaph, religious symbol, painting, seal, tombstone, structure, name, or display is constructed and located with the intent of being permanently displayed or perpetually maintained, is dedicated to a historical person or an entity, an event, or a series of events, and honors and recounts the military service, any past or present U.S. Armed Forces military personnel, or the past or present public service of a resident of the geographical area comprising the state or the United States. The term includes but is not limited to following memorials established under Chapter 265. 1. The Women's Hall of Fame. 2. The Florida Medal of Honor Wall. 3. The Florida Veterans Hall of Fame. 4. POW MIA Chair of Honor Memorial. 5. Florida Veterans Walk of Honor and Florida Veterans Memorial Garden. 6. Florida Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame. 7. Florida Holocaust Memorial. 8. Florida Slavery Memorial. 9. Any other memorial located within the Capitol complex, including but not limited to Waller Park. And it says here, so it goes across the board, not including Confederate sites too. So I like that. So like I said, it's out of all that fidelity here. 2 is unlawful for any person to willfully and maliciously destroy or demolish any memorial or historic property, or willfully and maliciously pull down a memorial or historic property unless a person by an owner of a memorial or historic property, a person who violates this section, commits a felony of the second degree, punishable as provided in Florida Statutes 775.082 through 084. Okay, and then, whoops. 3. A court shall order any person convicted of violating this section to pay restitution, which include the full cost of repair or replacement of such memorial or historic property. Interesting there. So let's see if they have something here under burglary. Anything new? Oh, wait, okay, we'll just go right down here. However, if the burglary was committed during a riot or an aggravated riot prohibited under Statute 870.01 and the perpetration of the burglary is facilitated by conditions arising from the riot. So you can look at all that. It's talking about penalties under the same statutes I said aforementioned, and under 252 after declaration of emergency. All right, and of course here, and it says in the sentence here, as used at the subsection, the term, this is altered now. Conditions arising from the riot means civil unrest, power outages, curfews, or a reduction in the presence of a response time for the first responders or Homeland Security personnel, and the term. Conditions, okay, so. And it says down here, same thing. Yeah, same thing. Okay, so I'll just go keep on going. Conditions of riots. Of course, they cross out some other things here. Person arrested for, okay, burglary within the county, subject to same penalties, okay. And, so we're hitting them right in the pocketbooks, by the way. Now, let me see. Let me just look at here. Property stolen is emergency medical equipment valued at $300 or more. Is taken from a facility license under $395 from the aircraft or vehicle permitted under Chapter 4. Property stolen is law enforcement equipment valued at $300 or more, taken from authorized vehicles. Okay. So it's considered grand theft. The offender commits. Okay, the property stolen is number 4 here. Property stolen law enforcement equipment valued at $300 or more that is taken from an unauthorized emergency vehicle as defined in the Florida Statute 316.003. The offender commits grand theft in the second degree, punishable as a felony of the second degree. So if it's $300 or more, even from law enforcement, okay, it's considered grand larceny. So, okay, so it gives a whole rundown here. And, Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting stuff here, folks, and that's why they did some things here. Of course, conditions and all that. Person's arrest committing theft. Yeah, so it's like 61 pages long, so you always gotta bear with me. And it tells you the conditions of these felonies as well. So, even under state of emergency. And here's another thing too. Just to let you folks know, even the government can call it the militia under Article 10, Section 2 of the Florida Constitution with civil unrest. So the Florida Constitution, able-bodied inhabitants. It doesn't mean the National Guard only. Okay, it's individuals, able-bodied inhabitants, as people. That'll be commander under the armed forces, including the National Guard. That's two separate entities right there. So I have to let you guys know about that. You can look it up too, Article 10, Section 2 of the Florida Constitution. It's very interesting. And some folks are a little bit amazed about that, you know. I try not to argue, and I showed it to them. They're like, wow, the jaw is dropped. That is interesting. So he can execute that too, folks. There's a lot of stuff in here. It's insane. And, of course, you know, Castle Doctrine and all that. Okay, the truth of the matter is, folks, there's some people out there that are awesome people out there that are protesters. You know, I chat with them a lot. Doesn't matter what their views are. They're peaceable. But always remember, stay away from the troublemakers, the hired guns, the infiltrators. Don't get entrapped. And this is why I encourage all citizen journalists, everyone out there, have your cameras if you're going to go out, because you won't get everything documented. And I'll tell you this, you got a good chance of getting off. All right, so that's your weapon. You got a great defense weapon, your cameras. Technology is the key, folks. That's why I understand the American Civil Liberties Union side as well. And there's things I don't agree with them, but you gotta look at both sides of the sword, you know, both sides of the coin on this. And because the truth of the matter is, be a peaceful protester, not a rioter. All right, and there's a lot of things in here. Like I said, there's a lot of pages, and certain statutes got repealed. But I'll definitely like affirmative. Oh, hold on here. Wait. That's interesting. This is new here. Under Chapter 3903, this section does not prohibit constitutionally protected activity as peaceful protest. So, there you go. So, if you peacefully protest, it doesn't affect you. All right, but unlawful, it tells you all about unlawful assemblies. Let's look at Section 870.07, affirm defense in civil action party convicted of a riot. And it says here, 1, in a civil action for damage or personal injury, wrongful death, or private property is an affirmative defense that such actions arose from an injury or damage sustained by a participant acting in furtherance of a riot. The affirmative defense authorized by this section shall be established by evidence that a participant has been convicted of a riot or an aggravated riot prohibit under 870.01, which is statute, or by proof of commission of such crimes or preponderance of the evidence. 2, in a civil action which the defendant raises affirmative defense under the section, the court must, on the motion by the defendant, state the action of the pendency of criminal action that forms a basis for the defense unless the court finds that conviction in the criminal action would not form a valid defense under this section. So that's all brand new. Now it's into law. Of course, burial sites, all that. They don't want anyone to wreck. So, of course, willfully destroy. Or penalties are very similar. Parking carts. Of course, you're going to use that. Because that's okay, battery, all right. And historic property. So I'll give you all the whole rundown here: forgery and uttering and cash deposit items stolen, drug paraphernalia. So they give the whole rundown of penalties. So it gives you that, okay? And there's nothing, I don't see anything about people going out of their businesses and all that, but the whole thing is, like, at least down here, what happened in Fort Lauderdale, the hire guns, we had this fortunately minor damage, and I had a little discussion with the one of the places got all their windows smashed, and he agreed that what happened down here was minor. And it was funny because I let him know, you know what, if everyone had Dobermans and firearms, they'll keep going. He just bust out a lot. I said, you know what, he had a couple of pit bulls you should have brought over. And it's okay, so lessons are learned. By getting that story, he just cracked up. He had a good spirits. Like I said, nothing really serious happened in Fort Lauderdale, thank goodness. And of course, 7-Eleven got smashed up around here too, which is disturbing. But the whole thing is, bottom line is this. So maybe a question on the Article 1, Section 17. Okay? So I recommend everyone read this in its entirety. And then make your own decision. And look at the, look at the pros and cons. That's the thing. So I noticed that too. With the whole, with that excessive bail and so forth, so that maybe I could be challenged. But what I read so far, it is, hey, don't riot. Don't stir up crap. Protest peacefully. Have your arguments, so what? We'll have our debates. But don't use anything don't say anything egregious. All right? And that includes the people who are countering it, too. And get into people's faces, that's like totally acidine. As an activist myself, I know these things. Alright? There's ways of handling it. I got my chops busted too, but most of the time we laugh about it. Principle. But one thing I know for sure, anyone that's considered a higher gun stirring up trouble, like I seen last year in South Florida, you call that son of a bitch out. And you grab him and toss him to the side and go, he's the criminal, not us. That's what I'm saying, have your cameras ready, folks. I want people's rights to speak their minds peacefully. Not damaging property or violating others for what has happened. Because repressive hatred is unhealthy. The actions, yeah, I hate it. Absolutely. And another thing, too, we can look at. Federalization, federal funding of police, that's very dangerous, too. And people know me. Hear my shows in the past, I always question these things, especially getting grants from Homeland Security. I don't like that at all. That's another aspect. I've been saying it's going to be a problem for a very long time. But overall, what I read here, DeSantis, they did right, because what happened in those other towns don't want to see it in their state. So, if you're going to come in here from your buses to stir trouble, expect blowback. This is how it is. Because people love their communities. Doesn't matter what they look like. And we got our issues in South Florida as well. In our state. Counties, all that. We all have them. But you don't burn anyone's property. Because you accomplish nothing. Don't put a burden on innocent people. Exercise your rights peacefully. I will be there side by side, but if you stir up trouble, I won't be afraid of calling you out. And that will be it. I thank everyone for listening, plus feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of these articles on my Spreaker page. And I'll add that little memo, too, on Dee Snider. Like I said, I don't hate the man by any means. I was, disappointed, So I am good about that. It's principle, okay? Principle. So if you want to contact me, you can email me at lookandlucknumbers03@proteinmail.com. If you want to donate, hit me at paypal.me or cash.app/lookandlucknumbers3. If you want to send your contributions to the Epoch Times, subscribe to them. I greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.